Pack it in, son. Hugs game.
Well, that's very sensible, albeit hallucinatory advice.
Bob the Neckbeard, Part 9. Don't dish out what you can't handle. Yeah, it's good advice for life, honestly. Hey guys, it is new story time. We got that cast list. Yeah, OP Nightlightin', Bob, that's our Neckbeard. Rosa's the best friend, and so is Nate. If you missed some previous videos, hey, that link, playlist, description, etc. This is a shorter story this time, but here it goes. It was lunchtime at school, and not wanting to be outside in the downpour, as is the case quite a lot in England, myself, Rosa, and Nate were in the hall, which was open to students at lunch. At this point, I should tell you that since the trip to London from Part 8, I had been pretty annoyed with Bob, and luckily Bob had backed off for a bit. I say for a bit because, of course, he couldn't actually give up on Milady. Neckbeards are nothing if not persistent. We've seen it time and time again. In the hall, the three of us were sat at a table that was set up in the hall. Yeah, okay, OP, but where was the table set up? Oh, in the hall. Got it. Me and Rosa, who were and still are fairly good at drawing, were giving Nate a little tutorial on how to draw body shapes and stuff. A fine investment of his time, honestly. Building skills, I'm all for that. But out of nowhere, Bob just walks up and sits down at our table. The tables weren't small, but they weren't really big either. And there were plenty of tables with no one at them, so I don't know why he had to sit there. After a few minutes of him awkwardly glancing over every now and then, he spoke up. What is it you three are doing? Are you drawing? He asked. Fair question, so I answered. It's not even a fair question. You just be like, do your eyes work, bro? Yeah, just showing Nate how to do something, OP says. Normally this would lead into a conversation, perhaps even asking if he could see what was being drawn, but this was Bob. He just stood up and stuck his head in between mine and Nate's so he could see his drawing, and by extension also be in closer proximity to Milady. God, there really just is no end to his little plots. He's a schemer. So Bob says, oh my, that fellow has a rather wonky body, doesn't he, Nate? You need to get better, he said with a chuckle. Nate gave him a look of, excuse me, while me and Rosa gave each other a look of, did he really just say that? I wish I could even pretend that I was surprised anymore. I'm not. You want to talk about wonky bodies, Bob? Let's talk about the shape that you're in, Bob. Yeah. You're an expert then, I assume? It seems like you know your stuff, Nate said as he flipped through his notebook. I know my way around a pencil, Bob said, trying to sound humble, but ending up sounding like a complete douche. He's also setting himself up for a slightly homophobic joke, but you know, low-hanging fruit and whatnot, which could also be a joke on its own. Okay then, draw us a picture, Nate said, as he tore a blank page out and passed it to Bob. Oh, money where your mouth is. Bob looked down at the paper and saw this as a challenge, which it was, obviously. He threw himself down into the seat, got out a pen, and started drawing. You probably don't draw in pen. We waited in anticipation of what it could be that he was drawing. It's gonna be kaijus or waifus, I'm like 90% sure. Bob's then smiled a triumphant grin and slid his paper over to us, which Nate picked up, and suppressed his laugh into a snort. He handed the paper to Rosa and myself, who were dumbfounded by what we were seeing, which was from the same person who claimed to be good at art. He had drawn a human girl, I think, in a bikini. However, The funny part was how bad the proportions were. Her honker-donkers and her waistline were absolutely huge. Her stomach was tiny, and her arms and legs had an odd Popeye effect, with them tapering down and widening out again. The hair, yeah, that was just a lost cause. It was simply a straight line for the fringe, and perfectly straight hair flowing down towards the ground. It was a sight to behold. Honestly, he should have drawn a kaiju. Anything without human proportions, because it's a lot harder to tell why it's bad. No offense, Bob, but this kind of sucks, Rosa said, about as subtly as a bison stampede. Bob looked crestfallen. Milady number 2 had just insulted his work. He must get Milady number 1's view. O.P., what do you think? You know good art, right? Yeah, I also know bad art, Bob said, and O.P. groans at this statement, of course. I was just as good at drawing as Rosa, and I was just gonna have to speak my mind. Gotta agree with Rosa, I'm afraid, Bob, I said. I wasn't gonna sugarcoat it. It wasn't good. And I was sick of Bob talking down to people. Yeah, a little bit of an ego check, ain't nothing wrong with that. And then O.P. elucidates. It looks pretty off. Her Hoingo Doingos is way too big, and her hair looks all weird. I think you should probably learn to get better at something before going and cutting other people down about it, Bob, I said back at him. Ooh, snap. It took 8 parts, but this tension has risen into a boiling point, and I'm liking it. So at this point, Rosa and Nate both looked shocked because I almost never said stuff like this. Part of me felt bad for putting it that way, but another part was pretty glad to tell Bob the truth. Yeah, Bob doesn't need his ego protective. That ego is way oversized anyways, alright? Okay then, Bob said, looking devastated. He stood up, got his stuff, and walked off. Oh, that was easy. He screwed up the paper his drawing was on and threw it in the trash. We didn't know whether to feel guilty for making someone that sad or to be relieved that we got away from Bob for the rest of the lunch break. Now, we're done feeling sad, okay? This is Bob's manipulation tactic. You just need to stay the course until he finally gets the message, although it might take years. A few days after this, I was sat in the maths reading room waiting for a lesson to start. Bob walked in, sat down, and was annoying, as usual. He slid a piece of paper my way. Draw something. I want to see how good you are at drawing, he said, a little to the point. And some of my drawings I'd done before were on Facebook, but he probably didn't want me to know that he'd been sneaking around my photos. Yeah, Bob, that type of creep that likes something from the year 2004. I know you've been digging deep through the back catalog, and I don't like it. Okay, I said. What should I draw? I was expecting him to say, me, or some, like, overdone fan service type of character. Luckily, I was wrong on both of those fronts. Just draw anything, he said. I decided to mess with him and just drew a big old circle on the paper and gave it back. Here, I drew something, I said, trying not to laugh, but Bob looked unimpressed. I believe you said you could draw. This makes me think that you're a liar, he said. Wow, rude. Also, don't care for your opinion whatsoever. I was just messing around, Bob. Jeez, I said. And I took the paper, flipped it over, and drew again. I put effort into this one so that I could show Bob up. The end result was a headshot of a generic anime/manga girl. I slid it back to him, perhaps looking a bit smug. Oh, it appears you were telling the truth, he said, and he folded up the paper and put it in his pocket. I suspect that he probably tickled his pickle to that anime girl as well. In the next post, the finale. I can feel it. I can feel the fireworks, the sparks flying. This could not go on forever. Bob's dense, but he will get the message eventually, right? I'm hoping to see some fireworks. That's what I know, so I'm not gonna wait any longer. We'll just do the finale. We'll do it live. Bob the Neckbeard, Part 10, Finale. It's been a long time coming. I'm excited. Hey, everyone. Hi again, OP. Sorry for the lack of updates for a while. Been feeling pretty crappy the past few days. Cast list, that's the same. And now, for the start of the end. Note, a lot of the speech might be incorrect, so I have to type the gist of it, or as close to what I remember. It all happened so quickly that I don't remember every detail too well. That's all right, just give me what you got. Show me Bob being weird in some way, and I'm happy. At this point, school was finished. And for me, Bob, and Nate, it was our last year there. Me and Nate would be going off to college, but I don't know, nor do I really want to know, what Bob was up to after he finished. Rosa still had 1 year left to do, but we still hung out as often as we used to. At this point, it had finally gotten through my thick head that Bob should be just avoided at all costs, which was partially the reason that I now had black hair and let it grow out long.
I'm going to be a master of disguise. I'm going to be a master.
I mean, yeah, the plan's feasible, OP, but isn't just having a hard conversation easier than all of this? I don't know, maybe not. Bob doesn't really seem like a particularly balanced individual. Maybe it's time to just move. We had from toward the end of June until the start of September, except Rosa, who had from around the start of July to September, which meant a lot of free time to just chill and do nothing. Me, Rosa, and Nate took it upon ourselves to get together as much as possible. On a few occasions, we would see Bob, but we would usually manage to avoid being near him, which was lucky. That's not luck. At this point, with this much practice, it's all skill. One day, I was sat on the wall near the fitness center, which was our usual meetup spot. As mentioned in part 3, Bob lived near here, and he would see us walking to the wall if he was looking at just the right time, plus the fact that he would find excuses to pass the wall to see if anyone, i.e. Rosa or myself, was there. It was a little annoying, but we managed to dodge him a lot of the time. I was early, or Nate and Rosa were late, depending on how you look at it, so I was sat on that wall alone for a while. Then you could probably guess what happened. Yeah, Bob showed up. Great. He appeared out of nowhere behind me, stroking my hair, being creepy as usual. Stroking your hair? No, why? You're just okay with this? You're not gonna say anything? Oh God, she needs backup immediately. Bob's neckbeard senses must have told him that it was me. Could you not touch my hair, please? I said to Bob. Look at this OP. We've seen her grow through the saga. There was a point I never believed she would call Bob out, and now she calls him out left and right. It's beautiful. Anyways, OP said this to Bob as she moved her head away to add emphasis to what I had just told him. But it's so soft, he said. Trying to give a sad puppy dog look, but just ending up looking like the back end of a puppy dog. Bro, y'all out of high school now? Y'all way too old for this now? It's time to put childish things away. That sad puppy dog look, it ain't been cute since you were 4, Bob. I know your mom didn't have the heart to tell you, but I'm telling you right now. See what is essentially a grown-ass man giving me a sad puppy dog look? Ugh, disgusting. OP says, I don't care if it's soft. I don't like you touching it, I told him sternly, and he seemed to get it. The hair was a no-go zone. Instead of doing the normal thing that someone would do after being told that, which would be pissing off and going home, he decided to hilariously clamber onto the wall. I said nothing, but scooched my butt across the wall to get further away from him. That was no good because he would also move. After a few minutes of me staying silent and Bob staring at me, I felt it. A single, fat, pudgy finger on my forearm, which slowly moved down to my hand. OP, listen. Grab the finger. Twist the finger. Break the finger. I felt a chill go down my spine as I felt the movement, and I was frozen in place. I then felt his whole hand cover mine, which was resting on the flat surface of the wall. Okay, now you grab his hand. Now you snap his wrist. Do it! It's the only way it ends. OP, I have something to tell you. Oh, God, no. I've wanted to say this for a while. Oh, please, no. I love you, OP. You're the most beautiful girl I've ever met in my life, and I want to spend the rest of it with you, Bob said. I was stunned and still frozen in place. Shake your head. I had no idea what to say to him. No. Obviously, I didn't want to go out with him, but I also didn't want to run the risk of him launching into a long speech about the friend zone. I hopped off the wall, facing away from Bob, facing the hill that went downwards towards the woods. Thanks, I said. In hindsight, that was a hilariously anticlimactic thing to say, but at the time, I was deadly serious. He replays this moment like every night before he goes to bed. This was a formative moment for Bob, for better or for worse. Are you saying that you want to start going out with me? Bob said, sounding hopeful. To be honest, I did feel a little sorry for the guy. No, sorry, I said. I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. And also so I could message Rosa and Nate and tell them that we should start meeting somewhere else. I gotta go now, bye, I hurriedly said. And I went to turn around. Then Bob spun me around rather roughly by the shoulders and looked straight into my eyes. Oh, P, please, you're perfect for me, and I'm perfect for you, he said. It would be a cold day in hell when I considered him good for me. Bro, this is getting pathetic. Take the L and walk away. What's wrong with you? Bob, get off me, I said, trying to sound as intimidating as I could as I shoved his arm off my shoulder. He put his arm out to hold my shoulder again, which I slapped away. I turned on my heel and started walking towards the woods at the bottom of the hill, which served as a useful shortcut into a housing estate that was close to the main town. I turned around to see Bob, who was also walking my way, gaining speed and getting closer. Thud ball! He had a look of vague anger, but mostly a look of a beggar as he tried to close in. I picked up the pace and booked it into the woods to get away from that freak. I like that you identified both of those emotions, OP. The anger's just below the surface, but he's gonna use the beggar part to open the door back up so he can use the anger part on you, you know? It's a classic cycle, and luckily OP has completely broken away, it seems. And yes, she carried on running, not looking back. I soon started to get sorta tired, the kind of tired where you start losing control of your motor movements. I tripped on a protruding root from the ground and took a little tumble. I clutched at my knee. My knee was now cut after striking a few stones during my fall. I shakily stood up and carried on, walking slowly. This is quickly turning into a horror movie. Little chase scene where Bob doesn't run at all, but he just keeps appearing behind you. Then I heard that all too familiar voice. OP, wait, I just want to talk, Bob said, panting. He wasn't giving up. Bob, go away, I shouted at him. Just give me a chance, please, he said. It seemed like he was on the verge of tears. Nope, don't care. No, screw off, Bob, I shouted at him again. Oh, look at OP, taking the power back. You love to see it. Why? I would treat you like a goddess. No one else would treat you as good as I, he said. I was internally and externally cringing. That's some of that good old-fashioned spine powder, isn't it? No, Bob, I don't like you. You're annoying as hell. You creep me out, and since we first met, I have just wanted you to leave me alone, I yelled at him. I was not holding back. Like I said, fireworks. You can't step on somebody's neck forever and not expect them to start biting your ankle at some point, right? Bob started to speak. No! Shut up! I've seen you try to impress me. I've seen how you always stare at my body. I've seen you follow me around freaking everywhere. I've seen the crap that you made of me and Rosa on your laptop. I am so goddamn sick of you, I screamed at him, and it felt so good to get it all off my chest. It's been a long time coming, years of this treatment, and finally OP, yeah, she's saying what she needs to say. Bob stood there, stunned. After a moment, I saw him snap. Oh, everybody's snapping. Snapping to Slim Jim. Somebody call Macho Man Randy Savage.
What a light up your life? Yeah! Never those Slim Jim!
I'm sick of being friend-zoned all the time, he shouted. It was a cross between very upset and also amused at the fact that he tried to intimidate me when he said sick. What? I said to him. Just because you tried to be nice to me means I should jump on you right then and there? No, that's not how it works, I argued back at him. He moaned as he picked up a branch off the ground. Oh crap. See, again, I understand why chicks don't just outright say no. Terrifying situation incoming. Bob, what are you doing? I screamed. I was genuinely worried that he was gonna beat me to death with that thick branch. Why? Why? He repeatedly shouted as he bashed the branch against a tree. What a psycho, bro. Keep running. Why did he always say no? He shouted as he continued to bash that tree. Gee, I can't imagine why, Bob. You seem like a fun and balanced individual. A little self-reflection never hurt, all right? At this point, OP was backing away slowly. Everything suddenly seemed to go into slow motion in my memory. From what I remember, Bob must have let go of the stick as he swung the branch against the tree. Remember how I said that branch was pretty thick? Turns out that would come into play. The branch broke in two as Bob threw it against the tree, and with nothing to stop those two halves, they flew directly at me. At least it's not like direct assault, it's kind of accidentally on purpose. I'm trying so hard to give him the benefit of the doubt. I remember trying to move out of the way, but those pieces of the branch were moving far too quickly. The lower half hit against my upper leg and lower torso, while the second higher half flew directly at my face, hitting me between my forehead and shoulder. Bro, how big are these freaking branches? I stumbled back, clutching at my forehead. It didn't occur to me at that time that I had also been hit in the leg. I lowered my hand and saw it was covered in blood. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but I have hemophobia, only with large amounts of blood, however. I was stunned and frozen, and I looked down. My t-shirt had been torn through and had specks of blood on it, paired with a cut on my upper leg. It was all too much. And after seeing that my blood was dripping onto the floor around my feet, I lost it and fainted. Jesus Christ, dude.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
I'd like to formally apologize for all the times I said OP should just brush the dude off or whatever. Because yeah, this dude is a raging psychopath just underneath the surface. So, I was shaken awake eventually by Rosa and Nate, who had found me on the floor. Apparently they'd arrived at the wall and seen Bob running into the woods. From what they guessed, he was chasing me. I had no idea how they thought of that, but I am so glad that they did. Bob disappeared, presumably leaving me for dead. Not literally, of course, because I rejected him. I mean, honestly, with that level of bleeding, yeah, it is quite literally leaving you for dead, is it not? Then again, I don't know. Just because it's dripping on the floor doesn't mean it's like an artery, right? Your scalp bleeds a lot, but it'll heal eventually. Whatever. Glad friends happened to be there. Glad Bob left you alone after this outburst. Really should have started a paper trail on this one. But I guess you're just glad it's over, and me too, honestly, kinda. So, OP's friends got her some medical attention. I was lucky enough to just need the wounds covered, no stitches, and to let them rest for a few days. I was still woozy for a little while, but when I was with it, I explained what happened with Bob to Rosa, Nate, and to my parents. My mother had arranged to go to Bob's house to have a serious talk with Bob and his parents to tell him to stay the hell away from me. Well, my dad just plain old wanted to beat the crap out of him. Classic dad.
I just want to talk to him.
Dad, this is ridiculous!
I just want to talk to him.
Rosa and Nate became like my guardian angels, and I became more afraid of the woods and blood and mostly refused to retell this story to people. But now I've told it to everybody and they can replay it as many times as they want. OP never has to reopen that old wound again. I'll open it for you. That wasn't ending worse than I expected, honestly. I always hope it's gonna go super smooth and, you know, OP gets off scot-free, Neckbeard is punished, at least to the level that he deserves to be punished, but yeah, that's rarely the way it goes. Those scars run deep, so why not publish them on Reddit? At least we can get a little commiseration going in the comment section. Speaking of, I hope you like, comment, subscribe on the video. I appreciate all them things, my friends. Big thank you as well to my Patreon patrons and YouTube channel members. They're so beautiful. I love them so much. I hope you guys will join me again tomorrow. Keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hands. Most importantly, friends, remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it. And I shall see you again as soon as possible. Until then, friends, bye-bye.